Today on ZZZ Made Easy, we're hacking and slashing with Harumasa. If you log in during version 1.4 of Zenless Zone Zero, you will get Harumasa for free. This includes enough leveling materials to bring him up to level 40 as well. I was invited by Quivers to test Harumasa out early in the creator beta server to help make this guide. All footage shown here doesn't represent the final product of the game. If there are any changes in the live version, I'll make a note in my description and pinned comment. Thank you Quivers for the collaboration. As an S-rank electric attack agent, Harumasa is best at dealing out burst damage with gap-closing slashes. He is quite complex in terms of execution. There are a lot of inputs for his main damage loop, so I hope this guide can help you out whether you are a new or long-time player. To start, Harumasa's basic attacks consist of 5 parts. The first 3 moves deal physical damage, with the third attack bringing Harumasa closer to the enemy. His 4th and 5th basics will deal electric damage. Between basic attacks, you can hold a movement direction and Harumasa would do a repositioning shot, and then continue with his basic attack chain. On-fielding with Harumasa can be a bit dangerous, that third basic lunge forward especially. He is not primarily an on-field agent, but if you need to stay safe or dodge, Harumasa has a secret technique. While he has invulnerability during his EX special, Harumasa also has full iframes on its regular special. I'm not sure if this is intended, but it's hilariously OP. If you spam regular special, it seems like Harumasa is completely safe. He turns the bullet hell phase of Nineveh into a complete joke, and so far I haven't run into a situation where he actually gets caught by any big one-shot type attacks. Now backflipping to safety isn't the only use for regular special. If you hold special, after the attack, Harumasa will fire a falling feather arrow. You can do the same after EX special. You can also simply hold the special button the entire time, but this input also works after using the 5th basic attack as well as after a chain attack. Now Falling Feather can also be triggered manually by holding the basic attack button. This is Harumasa's charge shot looking move, but it's really ready to fire almost instantly. This has full lock onto targets, but you can move your movement stick and Harumasa can aim at different enemies. This hold basic input is very quick, so it's not really different from the hold special input against single enemies. Try to get familiar with both input methods though. You may have noticed Harumasa deploys electric mines onto the battlefield. These are his Electro Quivers. When a falling feather arrow hits a target, the Quivers will activate and send out a projectile that marks the enemy with Electro Prison. They will have a blue target on them. When there are foes with Electro Prison marks on the field, Harumasa enters his awakened state. This isn't a stance change per se, but Harumasa's dash attack now becomes enhanced. The regular dash attack is a volley of physical damage arrows. The awakened state version turns into a melee slash, and Harumasa will lunge to foes with Electro Prison marks. This is the core of Harumasa's kit. Deploy Electro Quivers, mark foes with Electro Prison using Falling Feather, and then go in with the awakened dash attack slash. We want to repeat this chain as much as possible, which means we gotta do a lot of button pressing. For effective comboing, we need to know how many quivers and slashes Harumasa would get at any one time. You can generate quivers using 5 methods. On a regular 5th basic attack completion, Harumasa makes 2 quivers. After an EX special or chain attack, he makes 6 quivers. After a chain attack occurs, the next 5th basic attack will also spawn 6 quivers. Last, if there are no quivers on the field and an anomaly trigger happens, you get 6 quivers. Despite all these methods, Harumasa can only have 6 quivers on the field. They last for about 1 minute, but you want to use the current quivers to apply Electro Prison marks before you make more. Now, something that isn't directly stated in the description, but really should be, is that if you have 6 quivers on the field and Harumasa does make more, the old quivers will automatically fire at enemies. I was told this is intended, and it's honestly a very important detail to understand. Let's say there are 6 quivers on your field and you use EX special. The 6 old quivers fire at an enemy and 6 new quivers will spawn in. This is how you can mark enemies without Falling Feather. The next detail you need to know is that enemies can only have so many Electro Prison marks. 1 quiver applies 1 mark up to a total of 8. These last for 10 seconds, meaning you kinda have to use the dash attack slashes fairly quickly. Slightly obtuse, but 8 marks does not mean 8 slashes. A slash consumes 2 Electro Prison marks, meaning 6 marks equals 3 slashes and 8 marks is a max of 4 slashes at a time. As long as the foe is marked, if you keep basic attacking, Harumasa would do more slashes until all marks are consumed. With no more marked enemies, Harumasa's dash attack goes back to the arrow volley. Before continuing, let's go over a basic combo to review. With enough energy, using EX special will create 6 quivers. You then use Falling Feather to apply 6 Electro Prison marks to a target. Last, input a dash attack and Harumasa flies in with melee slashes. With 6 marks, this gets him 3 slashes. For max DPS, we need to smoothen out this gameplay loop. Remember, after using EX special, you can keep holding the button down and Harumasa automatically fires a Falling Feather shot. New info, After any falling feather, if you press basic attack, Harumasa automatically does his dash attack slash. This is very clean and smooth, but just like the two inputs for falling feather, there are times where you need to do the manual dash attack input instead. Now, despite being a free reward, you can see that Harumasa is not that simple to play, at least effectively. Luckily, his core passive doesn't complicate things further. This ability is essentially just free damage. First off, at level F, the dash attack slashes get 25% crit rate. No other conditions, and since this is Harumasa's main damage move, you don't need to go past 75% crit rate generally. With that said, if the dash attack slash triggers a crit, Harumasa gains 1 stack of Gleaming Edge up to 3 stacks per slash. You can have a max of 6 Gleaming Edge stacks, and they last for 5 seconds. The timer resets with each trigger. At level F, a stack of Gleaming Edge will grant plus 12% crit damage to the dash attack slash. Each of the slashes can hit 3 times, so you want all 3 hits to crit. With 2 slashes, Harumasa maxes out the core passive, and the 3rd and 4th slashes will get 72% extra crit damage. Yeesh. You have to remember though, Gleaming Edge lasts for 5 seconds. This essentially is what pushes Harumasa more toward a burst DPS role. During a stun phase, Harumasa can pull off 10 plus slashes, with most of them getting the full value of the core passive. Now, Harumasa's additional ability further emphasizes the use of stun phases. He has an unusual activation condition of needing either a stun agent or an anomaly agent. Against stunned foes or foes with active anomalies, Harumasa deals 40% more damage. In addition, when Falling Feather hits a stunned foe or a foe with an anomaly, Harumasa applies 2 Electro Prison marks. First off, as an attacker, missing out on 40% extra damage is kinda unnegotiable. As for the other effect, remember how a foe can have a max of 8 Electro Prison marks? Harumasa can only deploy 6 Quivers, which means 6 marks. By using Falling Feather on a stunned or anomaly foe, this is how Harumasa can get 8 marks for 4 enhanced slashes. Both the core passive and additional ability really empower Harumasa for stun phase combos. Not only is it just 40% more damage, but Harumasa gets uninterrupted time to do repeated slashes, making the most of the extra 72% crit damage. We have to utilize all the ways Harumasa can spawn in Quivers to keep chaining slashes. Let's go over one of the combo options for a stun phase. Start your chain attack and end with Harumasa. This makes 6 Quivers. You can then do the hold special or hold basic attack for a Falling Feather input. With the additional ability, the 6 Quivers plus Falling Feather grants 8 Electro Prison marks on the target. Pressing basic attack after Falling Feather will do a smooth transition to the awakened state dash attack slashes. After 4 slashes, use EX Special. This spawns 6 more Quivers, and once again you do Falling Feather, go back in for 4 more slashes. Now you want to keep doing basic attacks. After the last slash, Harumasa shortcuts to his 4th and 5th basic attack strings. Since we did a chain attack, the next 5th basic now spawns 6 Quivers instead of the usual 2. You know the drill, do Falling Feather and do 4 more slashes. I would recommend spending some time in the training run because a lot is going on here. My biggest tip is to remember the basic loop of deploy Quivers, mark with Falling Feather, then slash away. We do that 3 separate times during this combo. If you don't have EX Special, you can instead do the 5th basic after your first set of slashes. Sometimes you can get enough energy to do EX Special for the 3rd set. When dealing damage with Harumasa, we can make use of the fact that old Quivers will automatically fire when replaced by new Quivers. Let's use a non-stun phase example. Imagine you inflict an anomaly. If no Quivers were on the field, this spawns 6 Quivers. Harumasa can use Falling Feather to mark the foe, then do 4 slashes with the additional ability. Another option is to use EX Special instead. Maybe you need to dodge an attack. Because EX Special deploys 6 Quivers, the previous 6 will automatically mark the foe. Do not do Falling Feather here. If you do, you're going to lose out on slashes because foes cap out at 8 Electro Prison marks. Instead, after the EX Special, input a dash attack manually. Harumasa can do 3 slashes. Afterwards, you can then do Falling Feather, using the Quivers on the field to mark the foe again. Now you go back in for 4 slashes. This method highlights some things we can use for stun combos. First off, we can set up Quivers and wait, then deploy a second set of Quivers to cause the automatic marking. Second, you want to count in your head how many slashes Harumasa actually is going to get. There is no visual indicator for Electro Prison marks. You gotta know if you applied 6 marks, you only get 3 slashes. Third, we can use the hold basic attack input for faster remarking. When doing the first 3 slashes, you can hold basic on the 3rd slash. Doing this brings up the charge shot Falling Feather. If you do not hold basic on the 3rd slash, Harumasa might do his 4th basic attack, which will waste your time. Let's bring this knowledge into a stun combo. Remember that Electro Quivers last for about 1 minute on the field. That is more than enough time to get them in reserves while your stunner does their thing. Whether it's 3/5 basics, 1 EX special, or just an Anomaly trigger, try to save 6 Quivers. Get your stun, and do your chain attacks ending with Harumasa. The chain attack replaces the old 6 Quivers with new ones, so the foe automatically gets marked. Do a manual dash attack for 3 slashes. You want to hold basic on the 3rd slash, so you do Falling Feather. This uses the 6 Quivers from the chain attack and the additional ability to get 8 marks. Do 4 slashes, and you can continue the rest of the stun combo with either an EX special, then slashes, or a 5th basic, then slashes, or both. Now, this Quiver setup combo has 15 slashes total possible, although you probably can't fit all of them in a stun duration. The main point is that if you already started a chain attack with Quivers on the field, you should try to use their marks first before using the rest of Harumasa's methods to deploy more Quivers. An interesting tidbit is that if you trigger an Anomaly while Harumasa does his chain attack, he still deploys 6 Quivers that will instantly get replaced by 6 more Quivers. It's a nice bit of quality of life in the kit. When it comes to ultimate usage, we definitely want to fit it into our stun rotation. Personally, I like to fire it immediately after the chain attack, that way you can build up decibels for the next ult, plus in most cases, I've already set up Quivers that automatically mark the foe after the chain attack. Depending on your drive disc or other buffs, you can use the ultimate later in the rotation. It's a quick one-shot, so feel free to stick it at the end of your stun timer if you can't fit any more slashes in. For a bit of a different playstyle, Harumasa seemingly is meant to work with an Anomaly teammate, at least from the additional ability. The idea seems pretty simple. We trigger an Anomaly with our Anomaly agent. Harumasa comes in, does 1 or 2 sets of slashes using the on-field Quivers plus an EX special, then you swap back to reapply your Anomaly. The main issue is that aggressive monsters won't let you do 3 or 4 slashes in a row. Here are some tips that helped me get more comfortable on fielding with Harumasa, and so you can bump out more damage during those short Anomaly windows. Doing a dodge counter, while usually good, kinda just disrupts Harumasa's flow. One way to deploy more Quivers is by getting to his 5th basic, but dodge countering will reset Harumasa's basic attack back to the beginning. Instead of doing this, if you perfect dodge, then hold basic attack, Harumasa does the dodge counter and goes into a Falling Feather charge shot. Against foes with anomalies, Falling Feather gives 2 marks with the additional ability. Now, Harumasa can go back in for another slash. However, it is possible to chain the Falling Feather charge shot version. If you hold basic attack, release, then quickly hold it again, Harumasa won't trigger the dash attack follow-up that normally happens. There is a timing to it, but this tech allows Harumasa to fire multiple Falling Feathers without getting closer to the enemy. This stacks up Electro Prison marks, and when it's safe, then you go in for multiple slashes. This tech was a game changer for me. Not only is it fairly fast, but I can do it from a dodge counter, keep some distance, and then pull off 3 to 4 slashes just like if I had 6 Quivers saved up. I highly recommend practicing both the dodge counter into Falling Feather and the chaining of Falling Feathers with the hold basic input. As we move into the build section, let's review how many free stats Harumasa gets from his kit. By leveling the core passive to at least level E, Harumasa starts with 19.4% crit rate. If you do go up to level F, the core passive adds plus 25% crit to dash attack slashes only, and when fully stacked, 72% crit damage. For Harumasa's main damage move, he starts with 44% crit rate, and it hits 122% crit damage after 2 slashes. You won't need to fish for a ton of crit rate substats since Harumasa can get a decent amount from his W engine choices. If you plan to get his signature, Zanshin Herb Case, this has a plus 48% crit damage main stat. It comes with an unconditional 10% crit rate, and on Anomaly or stun triggers you get another 10% for 20% total during Harumasa's main on-field time. In addition, plus 40% electric damage for dash attack slashes. This is a very easy to use W engine, and with the core passive, Harumasa will now have 64% crit rate for his main damage move before any other buffs or drive discs. During version 1.4, by completing the Into the Pale Wasteland event, you can get a free attack W engine called Markatsu Desire. This thing has a 20% crit rate main stat, which will match Harumasa's signature total. On EX special or on chain attacks, you get plus 9.6% attack for 8 seconds. If the foe has an Anomaly active, you get another 9.6% attack. This is assuming max refinements, which you can get from the event. Mercado Desire is basically made for Harumasa. If you can get both of its attack buffs active, it matches Starlight Engine at Refinement 5. That one is a craftable A-Ring division for attackers, although it doesn't have a crit rate main stat. Starlight Engine also requires a little thinking, since if Harumasa comes in for a chain attack only, he's not activating the dodge counter or quick assist condition. You may need to use a different rotation with your supports using this skills to quick assist Harumasa in. Now if you have plans for those two W engines, there's always Anton's signature, Drill Rig, Red Axes. 50% energy regen is not really needed for Harumasa, but it's okay. On EX Special or Chain Attack, plus 50% basic attack and dash attack damage for 10 seconds. This has a 15-second cooldown, but it starts counting when the effect is active. This means it's only a 5-second downtime. There are lots of other options. For crit rate main stats, Nekomata's Steel Cushion or the Battle Pass Cannon Rotor can work. Soldier 11's Brimstone is just a fat attack stat stick, and it triggers on dash attacks, which is no problem for Harumasa. For Drive Disc, Harumasa has a lot of options, mostly depending on your team comp and playstyle. For main stats, Partition 4 should be crit damage, assuming you can get a crit rate W engine. You could do a % attack though, if you have a ton of crit damage substats plus Harumasa's signature. Now for Partition 5, it's most likely electric damage, although attack % should work if you have other % damage buffs. Pen ratio is an option for teams with Rina. This includes the 2-piece buff for Electro. As for Partition 6, this is % attack, no question. If you want to use Harumasa for multiple teams, you can go with a triple 2-piece setup. Generally, most builds will use 2-piece Woodpecker since the 8% crit rate saves you from getting substats. After that, 2-piece Thunder Metal is solid, and then 2-piece Hormone Punk or Astral Voice doesn't hurt. You can also use the 2-piece Branch and Blade Song if you're farming for Miyabi. When it comes to 4-piece sets, Woodpecker is probably the best for ease of use. You may not get the full attack buff for a stun phase, but for Anomaly teams, this will work when Harumasa is on fielding. It also works with any element Anomaly. If you're gonna go with Grace or Yanagi, Thunder Metal can be the play. They apply shock, Harumasa gets the 20% attack while he does his damage. This can also work for stun teams, but timing shock with a stun isn't the easiest. If you want to only use Harumasa for stun phases, Hormone Punk can give 25% attack for 10 seconds. This has a 20-second cooldown, but it's only a 10-second downtime on the effect. Still, you really don't want to be swapping Harumasa in unnecessarily with this 4-piece. Personally, I'll be shooting for a 4-piece Woodpecker with 2-piece Thunder Metal, or depending on substats, I'll just go with a 2-2-2 set. I want to try Harumasa out with stun and anomaly setups, plus after a lot of testing, I'm a bit over worrying about upkeeping shock for stun phases. Speaking of which, one of the Thunder Metal teams can be the Chingy plus Rina combo. Triple electric, and both Chingy and Rina have respectable anomaly buildup. Chingy is the go-to stunner for burst DPS agents because she boosts the stun phase damage multiplier by up to 80%. What more could you ask for when your damage combo can cover the entire stun duration like Harumasa? Personally, while I like Rina, she's not a must-use. You can run any of the other supports, and since Harumasa can combo for a long time, it's less hassle if you got longer buff timers like on Sokaku, Lucy, or Caesar. Mindscape 1 Rina though can maybe join that party. Now, for the free version of this stun team, you can use Anby and Nicole. All new players can use this. I would not bank on Anby charging shock for Thunder Metal, but she can stun very fast. As for Nicole, her grouping's very good for mob waves, and she acts like Rina as a short-term debuffer. Generally speaking, Harumasa can pair with any stun support duo. Lighter, Lycon, and Collator can work with any of their support pairings. If you want a more intensive on-field playstyle, you can try double DPS comps pairing with an Anomaly agent. Grace plus Rina has synergizing abilities with Shock, but if you're not comfortable with Rina's short buff duration or just on-fielding with Harumasa, then Caesar is an excellent third partner. For a guy that's going to be zooming into melee range, a strong shield really helps. The huge attack buff also doesn't hurt. If you're going to be running Grace, you can also try Ben out as well. While Yanagi can work, she's better with a double Disorder Anomaly comp. Bernice would be nice for longer burns, no doubt, and you could do Bernice Lucy or Bernice Caesar. A team I may have underestimated is Harumasa with Miyabi. While Miyabi is a powerhouse in her own right and probably stronger with another team, her unique 20-second frostbite duration can be utilized by Harumasa. That's 20 seconds of 40% more damage, and it allows Harumasa to fight on field longer. I don't know if this is an intended pairing since Disorder procs are going to be a bit sparse, however, I kinda like playing this comp. Miyabi Shimotsuki also gives Harumasa free time to slash away. If you can get a stun off, double high damage ults is pretty satisfying as well. We've already covered a lot of Harumasa's quirks in this video, so the after party tip section is going to be a little sparse this time. Still, I want to share some more info about Harumasa in a less formal manner. While the Falling Feather dodge counter is my preferred way to stand the attack, sometimes you may already have 3 or 4 slashes ready to go on an enemy. If that's the case, instead of slowing down to dodge counter then Falling Feather, you can perfect dodge in a direction, keep holding your movement stick, and then just wait for the perfect dodge slowdown to run out. Harumasa will be dashing, so he'll do the dash attack straight away. This also works when swapping in. If your previous agent is sprinting and you swap, Harumasa will already be sprinting, so you can basic attack and dash in. Obviously, it only works if you already have active Electro Prison marks. To add a bit of flair and save time, you only need to hold the special button until Harumasa hits the ground if you want him to do the falling feather follow-up. You can swap in your next agent at the same time and Harumasa can mark a target still. When he comes back in, you're ready to dash attack slash. For Nicole and Rina's quick assist, when refreshing their buffs, you have another option. Instead of marking before swapping out, Harumasa can do an EX special then immediately swap. When re-entering via quick assist, this is the same animation as the dodge counter move, meaning we can go into a falling feather. Quick assist in, mark your foes, then do the slash follow. Last thing I want to discuss is Harumasa's Mindscape 1. He can now inflict a max of 14 Electro Prison marks. This doesn't change any combos though, because when Quivers mark targets, they send out 2 marks per quiver. Our usual 6 Quivers turns into 12 Electro Prison marks. If you use the Falling Feather to mark a target, that's the final 2 marks to get the new 14 mark cap. Basically, Mindscape 1 allows for 7 back-to-back slashes instead of 4 before you need to refill. Harumasa may be a free agent, but my god, will he test your button pressing skills. Against one enemy, stun teams set Harumasa up to unleash his full assault of quivers and slashes, assuming you execute properly. Now against multiple enemies or bosses, this is where Harumasa gets a bit tricky and frustrating to play. Sometimes when quivers automatically mark foes, they get split between targets. This means there could be a stunned foe and Harumasa ignores them completely because he had a couple marks on the other enemy. The dash attack slashes have decent AoE, but this is a fairly annoying problem. Overall, Harumasa is a mechanically intensive agent, so definitely spend some time getting the combos down. There are many ways to go about dealing damage, but it's all variations on deploying quivers, marking foes, then using the slashes. Try not to waste Electro Prison marks since there's a cap on them, and try to count out your slashes. It's very useful to know that I got 3 slashes this time, and then I got 4 for the next set. That's all I got to say about Harumasa. All you gotta do is log in during version 1.4 and he's yours. Next step though, hit the training room and time to lock in. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.